Want to know if your money is actually working for you? Cash on cash return gives you the answer, and it's super easy to calculate. Hey everybody, I'm Randy Wolfe, and before we dive in today, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you are wanting to learn how to invest in real estate. And if you like, you can check out my private real estate community where I coach new and aspiring real estate investors. That link is in the description below. So here's how it works. What exactly is cash on cash return? So the definition per se is cash on cash return measures how much cash you earn compared to how much cash you have invested. So the formula is annual cash flow divided by total cash invested is going to equal your cash on cash return percentage. So probably better if I give you an example versus like saying things like that. So let's just take, for example, let's say you invested $40,000 and in a year you've earned $4,000 in cash flow. That means that your cash on cash return is 10%. And the reason this matters is it really lets you compare real estate to things like stocks, savings accounts, and other types of investments. Now, one of the important things you have to understand about cash on cash return is it's not factoring in those things like equity that you're getting in your property. Typically and historically, over time, your property is going to appreciate in value. Cash on cash return is not calculating that. Also, as you pay debt, if you have a loan on the property, there's debt pay down. Cash on cash return doesn't calculate that. There's tax advantages. You're getting to write off things like, for example, depreciation. Cash on cash return does not factor that in either. So if you take only cash on cash return, if that's your only metric, and you say, okay, I'm making 12% cash on cash return with this rental property, that's my return is 12%. And over here in the stock market, I made a 12% cash on cash return this year because the stock went up some. You got to understand there's some differences there because the stock market, you're not going to have things like the tax benefits. You're not going to have the debt pay down, certain things that really, when you finally close your position in the stock or close it in the real estate, that's not going to be factored in. So there's other metrics that you can use. I'm not going to talk about on this video too much, but like there's internal rate of return. You've got your average rate of return. You got these different things that you can factor in, and you can plug in some of those numbers to get a real feel for that. Because I can tell you, if your cash on cash return, let's say the same cash on cash return as it is in like a savings or something like that, it's really the real estate, it's going to end up being a lot better because you're getting that debt pay down, the appreciation, the tax benefits, all of those sort of things. But it does matter, and you do want to look at cash on cash returns because that is one of the important parts of your real estate investment performance. There's certain situations where your cash on cash return can actually even be infinite. So I talk about on this channel, and I actually have a series. Be sure to check out my BRRRR Mastery video series. That's on the channel. It's under the playlist. Like, for example, if you're using the BRRRR strategy, there's times where your cash on cash return can be infinite because you're actually getting all of your capital back. And then from there, it's gravy. You're riding the house. It's all infinite return because you've got all of your money out of the deal back. So be sure to check out that BRRRR Mastery video series that is on the channel here. So there's a few action steps that you can take. One is you can actually pick one property. Let's just say you're doing some underwriting, using some of the skills that I've taught in some other videos. You're underwriting some properties. You're looking at them. You can pick one property and calculate what your cash on cash return would be based on market rent, based on the amount you would be putting down, that sort of thing. The other thing is you can decide today, you can take action today, and you can decide, okay, this is my minimum return. This is my standard that I want before ever buying. So whenever you're underwriting a deal, you can say, hey, I'm not going to buy anything to where my cash on cash return, it's got to at least be X amount. And that percentage is really up to you. Now, I will tell you, depending on that number, it really starts to skew certain things. For example, if you're like, hey, I really want to have a high cash on cash return, then theoretically that means you're going to be putting as little as possible in a deal. If you put as little as possible in a deal, that means your cash flow is not going to be as good, which still does affect that cash on cash, because if you put more in there, your cash flow is higher, but again, you're putting more money into the deal. So there's certain levers you can pull, and you got to be aware of that. Cash on cash return keeps your money accountable. It's a great method that you can kind of use to really understand how your money's working for you in these deals, and you can start using it today. So I'm glad to share that with you today. If you haven't already, like I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content. And if you're considering getting more like coaching and things like that, be sure to check out my community I mentioned earlier. That link is in the description below. As always, I greatly appreciate you watching the video today, and I look forward to seeing you on the the next one.